Hi, everyone. Welcome to Couples in the Ring. I'm not.
Couples in the Ring, the sequel addiction.
Addiction.
Addition.
I'm so frustrated. First of all, I was already cranky, and now this is the second take of this, and I was trying to argue with Josh saying, Josh, saying it's never going to be the same when you have to restart it, and he's arguing with me even though I've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm right and he's wrong. But anyways, Hi guys, welcome back to Couples in the Ring, the sequel. And I'm yelling, and now you have to turn it down.
Yeah, that's okay.
This is kind of like a mixture of like Glass Up, every other platform that I have, and Couples in the Ring all in one. We talked about it a little bit on the vlog channel about how this is basically going to be like, this was Josh's idea, by the way, to bring it back. This was just basically a mixture of whatever the hell we want it to be. Yeah. So sometimes it might just be me, sometimes it might just be Josh, sometimes it'll be me and Josh, sometimes it'll be maybe Sig and Josh, sometimes it'll be me and Sig, sometimes it'll be just, you get it. And it's basically just whatever we want to talk about whenever we want to talk about it. And we will read emails sometimes, so if you still want to send in emails, you totally can. But for the most part, I think it will be, for me, it'll probably be a lot of fertility and motherhood and stuff like that, just ranting and venting. And for Josh, I don't really know, because he does have a podcast on his channel.
Yeah, but this is going to be more like everything type thing, right? Like It could be funny things, it could be sad things.
Like Glass Up, literally.
Yeah, like news stories, whatever, right? Like what I'm doing on my channel is kind of different than that, but I'm more excited for this one, to be honest, because I miss Couples in the Ring. I miss doing the emails. And
everything's better with Karlee in it.
That is a fact. That is true. Like, you can't.
The numbers show.
Yeah, you can't really argue that, But we're back, and in today's episode, we kind of talked about it on the vlog about what we're going to talk about today, and that is
Luca.
Our son Luca. We're going to talk about kind of the whole experience on what kind of transpired with us within that time frame, and we're gonna open up about it. And I know, so basically, like, instead of doing this in a vlog where it was more like
didn't seem right,
it just seems better to just be able to sit down and like talk about it and kind of like bounce off of each other in like an open format. So, and a
vlog just doesn't seem right. And I talk a little bit about stuff on Patreon, like Patreon knew first that something was wrong, and Patreon, mostly because it's like my diary there. There's no other reason, but I didn't feel like it was even, I didn't want to also put it on, like, I didn't want to put this story on Patreon because then it felt like I was like, I don't know, trying to make income off of it. It just seems like there's no,
like, double dipping.
Yeah, like there's no proper way to talk about this, and we're trying to do it in the most like proper, genuine way, and we feel like just talking face to face with each other is like the best. And like, I don't want to answer questions because sometimes questions can be rude and people don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And so just doing it like this, I feel like seems the most genuine.
I think also like something to mention is that obviously the old Couples in the Ring was done live. This one will more than likely not be ever done live. It's probably just going to be pre-recorded like you're seeing right now. And we may or may not do live episodes. It's kind of up to you. I do them live on my channel, but this is more like, I don't know, it's different. It's going to be a lot different, which the only pre-recorded podcast I ever did, I think I did like, 4 episodes of Glass Up, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
And then after that, it was all live. So this is a little weird. I like it live. I like it live better just because it's like, you can see people's reactions, like whatever, but like, also, I'm going to see how this goes because
I feel like it's a little bit easier to stay focused when it's not live, because sometimes they'll be like you try not to read the comments, but then you also want to read the comments to stay interacting.
Yes, exactly.
But then like there's always like a troll in there that you're like, you read on the corner while you're talking about something else, and then you're like, I'm going to kill them. And you just have to like ignore them. I personally got anxiety before every single Couples in the Ring, and I don't know why, because I've been doing social media for 10 years. A camera doesn't scare me. I've literally done like on stage stuff with like literal supporters. Like I've done meet and greets with hundreds of people, but for some reason couples in the ring gave me anxiety every single time we had to do it. And I think it's because it's one of those things where I knew I had to be there at that time and I couldn't leave.
Yeah,
if you have anxiety,
yeah.
you get it. Like feeling like you have no control of the situation and being able to leave when you want is like a huge, even though it was in my house, sick, and Josh understood, I felt like it was a lot of pressure.
I mean, for the most part, it was a lot of pressure because it was, doing something live too. Like if you mess up or
you
like
can't.
there's no correction. Like we
Right.
don't have the
Right.
ability to go back and erase it, right? It's not like radio, like
Right.
where we do something or something goes wrong or whatever, like it's there, right? And obviously you don't want to chalk up a whole episode if you're having like technical difficulties. So there was a lot of times, obviously. I was gonna say like how we introed this podcast is very Couples in the Ring like, because I think maybe out of like however many episodes we did, we got like one or two right at the beginning. Like
Right.
like one or two of them went well.
I will say people were shocked at the quality of the podcast and how well it was, because I feel like obviously my videos aren't low quality, but they're very casual. Like I just do what I do and people like to watch it.
Yeah.
So when I had something that was like professional and like live and like there was like different angles, like sound effects, people were like, oh my gosh, I was not expecting that.
Yeah, which is that's the cool part. And obviously, like as you're seeing right now, this is our very like plain setup.
Yeah.
This is something I literally threw together very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously as time progresses and we keep on doing episodes and stuff like that, like you're gonna notice probably some upgrades coming, which we have the equipment. It's just like we need extra stuff to make some
And
of
I
the
don't
stuff
know how
works.
to use.
Yeah.
I've been doing social media for 10 years and I don't know how to use anything. I turn it on auto and press record. Don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
But when it comes to like editing graphics and stuff, I got you. But when it comes to like actually setting up the cameras and the sound stuff, you lost me.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's get into it.
Yeah, we're gonna open up about the story. I'm gonna let Karlee kind of take the reins here.
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, probably. But I'm gonna let her take the reins here. I'm gonna interject when needed, but I feel like a lot of the story will probably be better coming from her mouth. So, without further ado, I'll let her go. And
I don't
then
want to talk about it. I'm scared.
well, yeah, we don't have to, but we will. But yeah, I don't know how much of the episode is gonna be about this. Probably the whole thing. And so guys, don't worry, the podcast is still funny, just not this episode. It might be a little sad. So I'm gonna let her go, and then when I want to interject, I will. So yeah, take it away.
Ugh. I already have like that lump in my throat that I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, make me laugh, smile. I don't know. Also, we deal with like emotions and uncomfortable situations by like joking or laughing with each other, or like uncomfortably laughing, like like when you're embarrassed and you're like that's basically what I'll probably be doing this whole entire podcast. And it's not because it's funny, it's because I have no other way to cope.
Yeah.
So I already feel like I'm gonna cry, but I don't really know how to start it other than we did IVF. I got pregnant on the first transfer, which is insane.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, it's not insane, but it's like most people have to do multiple. It's like it's not guarantee that you're gonna get pregnant your first transfer. But I did, and thank God, because it was a lot of hard work to get there. It was like 3 months of menopause and like horrible side effects, and I truthfully didn't know if I even could get pregnant. So when I got pregnant, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm capable of getting pregnant. And I got pregnant and everything kind of my pregnancy was relatively, I would say, other than like the normal symptoms that other women get, I had a pretty good pregnancy. I never really got like super exhausted. I was continuing to work out. If not, I was working out more than I did when I wasn't pregnant. I was sick, but I never like was sick to the point where I needed to go get like fluids or anything like that. Like it was a pretty normal pregnancy, other than like I said, I had nausea probably more than other people. At least my friends didn't really have as much nausea and vomiting as I did, but there's a woman that got it worse. So for the most part, I would say my pregnancy was relatively healthy and easy. I was like, I love being pregnant. This is so much easier than I thought. I mean, mind you, I never made it to the third trimester where it seems to like get uncomfortable, but yeah, everything was like good. I was on like cloud 9. I was constantly buying baby stuff. And our 12-week appointment, so if you've ever been pregnant, your 12-week appointment is kind of like where you get the chance to do genetic testing if you want to. So we decided to, just to be like prepared. And it's kind of where they test for like chromosomal abnormalities and things like spina bifida, and they kind of just try and rule out any major complications that your child will not be compatible with life. Everything came back good. The anatomy scan was the next milestone after that. So from 12 weeks, you wait until you're 20 weeks. And at the 20-week anatomy scan, you basically find out they measure, it's literally an hour appointment, and they measure every single part of the baby, like their legs, their feet, their organs, their brain, like every single part. So Luca was, like I said, quote unquote healthy. His heart, his brain, everything was healthy until the 20-week anatomy scan. And for some reason, in my anatomy scan, I was laying there and I was like, I texted Josh, I'm like, I think something's wrong. And he's like, why? I'm like, because the girl was really rude. And then all of a sudden, she was really nice. And I know people are going to like think I'm crazy, but I'm very good at like reading body language, because most of the time, I think I've had to be this way because growing up, I would never know if someone liked me or hated me because of YouTube, or if they knew who I was and was a fan, or knew who I was and hated me. So I always had to pay attention to body language. And whenever I was out in public, also because I was a woman, I had to pay attention from like, men around me. What are they doing? Are they following me? Are they whispering about me? Are they trying to get in every aisle? And then same with, even just like little kids. Or do they like me? Do they hate me? Do they want a picture? Do they want to kill me? Like, I just didn't know. So I've always been very like connected to body languages and the way that people come off. And I was so nervous going into my anatomy scan. I remember I had like 4 pieces of gum in my mouth. Like I was telling Josh, I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And maybe I knew deep down that something was wrong. I don't know, because I was very anxious. Like I was like not wanting to go at all. And like even in the waiting room, the whole time I was in the waiting room, I was like,
was bouncing.
I was like, I can't go.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because usually, I was already, let me just say this before I get into it more, is I was already so scared the entire pregnancy, more than every woman is nervous during their pregnancy because they want their baby to be healthy and things can go wrong. But I feel like mine was like heightened by 10 because it was so hard to get here that I'm like, I don't want this to be ripped away. Ugh, I'm already gonna cry. So I was like so scared, and I was like, I don't want this to be ripped away. It's almost like you get you get a taste of what you want your whole life, and then it's just like ripped away. And I didn't want that, so I was like so scared, like more scared than probably the average person. So we're at the anatomy scan, and I am thinking everything's okay. So in Canada, the actual sonographer can't tell you whether something's right or wrong. They're really not allowed to tell you anything. They could say, oh, here's the heartbeat. And this is what the heartbeat is. And that's literally all they can say. So I know going in to not ask questions because they can't tell me anything anyways. But like I said, I walked in, I was smiling. She was not. I was asking her questions. She was not making eye contact with me. Like she was just not friendly. And I was like, whatever, okay, so it's an hour appointment. I'm just going to go on my phone then if she's not going to talk to me and be nice. She was answering questions like without even looking at me. Like she was just not looking at me. And then all of a sudden, like halfway through, she starts joking around with me because she was like pushing really hard on my stomach. And I was like, ugh. And she's like, oh, like, am I hurting you? I'm like, no, you're fine. And then I was like on my phone. She's like, oh, are you searching up like, is an ultrasound supposed to hurt? And I'm like, actually I am. And we started laughing about it. And she was all of a sudden like super nice, like giggling with me, starting to smile with me. And then it got quiet again. And she kept going and she went, and she sighed really loud. And I'm pretty sure I messaged you.
Yeah, you did. I was trying to like think of like the giving her the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe she had a long day. Maybe it was like, maybe an anatomy scan is a lot of work.
It is.
Like maybe she's like,
100%.
This is so frustrating. It's so
Right.
much work. I was trying to give the benefit of the doubt, but
So yeah, I was literally texting Josh and I said, I think something's wrong. He goes, why? I'm like, because she was rude and now all of a sudden she's nice, and she started sighing halfway through. And I don't know, call it mother's instinct. I don't know. I felt like something was wrong. So we ended up seeing Luca on the screen after. He was kicking. He was so cute. And his heart rate was normal. And then we leave. And so you don't get your results. Like, I hear a lot of people in the States go straight from, like, the sonography, like, well, the ultrasound appointment straight to, like, their doctor, like, back to back. Ours is not like that. So, like, the ultrasound tech actually sends over the images and the results to Dr. Victory. And then Dr. Victory, which is my OBGYN and fertility specialist, he will look over it. So, and then they call you with your results or you wait for your appointment. So I had an appointment, my anatomy scan was on a Wednesday, and I had my appointment for a follow-up on the Monday. So it wasn't that long after, but I decided, I was like, I feel like something's wrong, and I just need to know everything's okay, so I'm just going to message my doctor. So I message him, and I'm like, hey, let me know, like, as soon as possible, if you can, when you get the anatomy scan results. So this is the next day on Thursday. So I went Wednesday at, like, 1. This was Thursday. I think it was, like, what, 5 o'clock? 4 o'clock? My mom was getting off work, so it had to have been, like, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
She gets off work at, like, 4:30.
Yeah, like 4 o'clock, yeah.
So it was, like, between 4 and 5. I get a phone call, and it says unknown. And I'm like, oh, God.
You know, it's either unknown is, like...
A scam?
Or, like, someone that's not supposed to be calling you, trying to call you, or it's your doctor.
Right.
Something, yeah.
And so the moment I answer the phone and he goes, hi, Karlee, it's Dr. Victory, I literally was like, hi. And my heart, I was like, oh my gosh. Because I was like, there's no reason for him to be calling me before my appointment unless there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And if everything was okay, he would have said it immediately. I know Dr. Victory, he knows that we're like, you know, he deals with infertility patients. He knows that we're already full of anxiety. He would have just messaged me saying, everything's fine, wait till Monday, I'll talk to you then. Or he would have just been like in a good mood on the phone. And I could tell immediately that something was wrong. And so he goes, he's like, I'm just running into surgery. He's literally a superhero man. I don't know how he does what he does. And he's like, I'm running into surgery right now, but I just went over your anatomy scan results, and there's 2 significant things on your anatomy scan. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's me. Maybe I have placenta previa. Maybe there's too much amniotic fluid. I'm thinking it's something that's going to put me at risk, and not even thinking that it's my baby. And he's like, do you want me to tell you now over the phone, or do you want to come in? And I'm like, well, tell me now, because I'm going to
let's not drag it out more.
I'm going to be freaking out.
Yeah.
So he basically tells me that there are 2 problems. One, that it shows a neural tube defect on our baby's spine, and that also one of the outflow tracts were tortuous, which is twisted, and it seemed like there was a heart defect as well. And I knew what a neural tube defect was, because I think all women do, because that is the number one reason why we're pushed to do prenatals, is because you need folic acid to prevent neural tube defects. Like, it's literally the number one reason why we're all pushed to do prenatals so much. And I've been on prenatals for 4 years, by the way. Like, the whole time I was trying to get pregnant, obviously during, my retrieval, I've been taking prenatals. So he says, looks like there's a neural tube defect and that there's some type of heart defect. So we're going to have to send you to London, which is like the closest specialty place that we have here. It's about like how many hours?
It's like about a 2-hour drive away. But that was literally the only place from, I think, here. So from where we live to Toronto was about 4 hours. And that was the only place. I'm pretty sure that was the main place that people went regardless.
Right.
Like, even if they were from Toronto, like this was a group of like specialists that there was like 3 different types of doctors that dealt with like.
There was like a geneticist person. Yeah. There was like a maternal fetal medicine person. There was a I don't know, like they do surgeries on like newborns.
Yeah, I don't know
I
what
don't
it's
know.
called.
I don't know what they're
I'm
called
not
either.
sure. But there was a group of specialists. So obviously even going to that place is like super intimidating because you're like, well,
Well, right when we found out, me and Josh both cried. We were just crying together and crying, and I called my mom. That's one of the, there's certain things where you're like, no matter how old I am, I need to call my mom. I called my mom. She came over. I started throwing up. Ugh.
yeah, you really did.
I'm gonna cry again. I started throwing up because I was so scared, and I felt like shit.
It's okay.
I felt like the dream that I had and this vision that I had for my baby, like going to the park, and everything was ripped away from me again for the millionth time. Which I did a video on Patreon, literally scream crying and explaining, like, I'm literally scream crying in that video, and like, it was horrible. It felt like the worst feeling ever, other than finding out about my best friend Daniel. It was pretty close. I threw up both of those times. But yeah, so we were throwing up and crying. Well, I was throwing up, he wasn't. But we were both crying in each other's arms for a long time. And we instantly started doing research on both of the things. So we started Googling neural tube defects, found out that there's another name for it called spina bifida, because there's many types of neural tube defects, I guess. There's like open and closed and whatever. So we found out that it was spina bifida. And we had to wait. So it was a Thursday, and we had to wait till Tuesday to go to the specialist. And because my pregnancy and the baby's heart was at risk, I had to go for ultrasounds every single week. Basically, to see and check on the baby to make sure that the baby was still there. And so every single week I had to do a follow-up. Well, it was Wednesday, and then Tuesday came, went and met with all the specialists. We kind of figured out what the plan would be, after birth, and we found out what kind it was. We found out that like what the heart defect was. We found out about everything basically, and that was a lengthy appointment. And from the Thursday we found out to the Tuesday where the appointment was, we were so depressed.
Oh my God, yeah.
We did nothing but lay in bed and eat, and I'm not kidding. Like, there was days where I didn't even shower.
Yeah.
For multiple days.
Yeah.
We were absolutely devastated. So do you want to say anything, or?
No, continue. You're doing great.
So when we went to the maternal fetal medicine, I don't know, the specialist, we did another ultrasound. They found the same problems. We found out there's like a specific part of the heart, but I don't really know. Honestly, I don't know how to I'm not a doctor, so I can't really describe it, other than the fact that one of the outflow tracts were not working properly, and he did have a congenital heart defect.
Yeah.
Which was pretty severe. And then, like I said, he also had spina bifida. So we found out that he had spina bifida between, so like every single part of your spine has like, there's like L1, L2, L3, L4, whatever. I don't know if it actually starts at 1, but all we know is that 2 sections of his spine were affected. So basically, when your spine grows, it should grow from the top to the bottom. Well, with spina bifida or a neural tube defect, sometimes it won't close, leaving the nerves exposed and not protected by like the spine. Well, we found out that 2 of them, the most bottom ones, were both exposed. So that leaves your nerves out and everything, and nothing to protect. Sometimes you can leak, spinal fluid, and all of that. We found out that his was a closed neural tube defect, so sometimes the nerves and everything can actually like protrude out, and it could be sticking out like of the skin. Like, you'll see the baby's nerves and everything outside. It's basically a ball outside. Ours, however, Luca's, was actually covered with skin, which is why it went so long without being detected, because he wasn't leaking any spinal fluid. into my amniotic fluid, which would have in turn made my AFP test at the 12 weeks positive, and we would have been able to test further to see if he had it. But because his was closed, which is also pretty rare, he wasn't leaking anything. So it was not detected until they went looking for it. So his heart also was normal at the 12 weeks. So between then and there, we just don't know what happened. And we also found out that he had the worst type of spina bifida, which is lipomeninges.
Something. I can find it.
Myeloma it's not.
We're gonna find it. It is spina bifida. Meningeal.
So he had the lipo version, the lipo.
Yes, the lipomyelomeningeal.
Yes, lipomyelomeningeal.
We're gonna chalk that up to that is what it's called, but
yes.
It's probably butchered, so we apologize for that.
So so he had like the most rare form, the most severe form, of course. And it was not affecting his brain, but it was affecting his heart. We don't know really if they were connected, but usually they are connected. And so he had a heart defect as well. We were more concerned with the heart defect because it seemed like the heart defect was very severe. Spina bifida does affect the baby's quality of life. Usually the outcomes are wheelchair. Some of them need walkers. Some of them are completely just like paralyzed from the waist down.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have no bladder and bowel control. They need catheters, colostomy bags. They need to go to surgery right away after birth. Luckily, his was closed, so he didn't have a high risk of infection, so they could have waited a couple days. And then the heart problem was a whole separate problem because they weren't really sure what it was. They didn't really know how to fix it. You don't know. A heart defect is a lot more serious. Obviously, your heart is what keeps you alive. So we had to keep going to check on his heart. And after we found out everything, we're like, okay, we're going to have to just take this step by step. We're going to have to figure out what to do. And we went back for a follow-up a week after, and then a follow-up a week after that. Well, the second follow-up we had, where they just checked on his heart, there was no heartbeat. I'm trying really hard right now to like not go into detail about the actual heart problem because I just don't know what it's called other than a tortuous outflow tract. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what else did they say. I don't know how to.
It's hard because like the problem is when we went there we got so much thrown at us.
So much information,
and it was like obviously super like just not a good time. So obviously you're almost like blacking out when they're talking to you about things, and you're like you're trying to absorb as much as you can, obviously, right? But it's like it's really hard to actually take in all that information like you should be. For one, they're using medical terminology that we might not know, and for two, you're obviously like in emotional distress and really can't fathom what's really going on, right? So it's right to say that we really can't explain the heart defect because it's
other than we know that it's a congenital heart defect.
Yeah.
And it kind of, from what we gathered, it kind of sounded like heart failure.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they were.
But
like the gist of it.
Yes. Yeah. But I honestly, like, we understood this. I understood the spina bifida part pretty well. And I did a lot of research on that. But when we started doing research on the twisted outflow tract, and then when we went, there was even more problems, I think, with one of like the sides of his heart pumping. That part, I just, every single time I Google like what they said, there's like a million different things that come up. That one I really don't understand. And yeah, so when we went for our second or third checkup after that diagnosis, his heart actually was not there, and we found out we lost Luca. Within like I think a couple hours after the ultrasound, my doctor called me and basically said, you have two options. You can wait for three. You can wait for your body to go into labor naturally. And here are all of the risks with that. You can be induced, or you can get a D&E. So a D&E is different than a D&C because being 23 weeks pregnant, the baby is way too big to do a D&C. A D&E is pretty, in my opinion, I don't judge any woman for doing it, but a D&E is pretty, it's pretty gruesome if you look up what they do in a D&E. It's pretty, for me, I just couldn't do that to our baby. And it also carried risks for me as well. Knowing that I already had a hard time getting pregnant, I just didn't feel comfortable doing a D&E. People get it done all the time, but anything that causes a risk of scarring or anything to my uterus, I'm just not willing to do, considering, it already is hard for me to get pregnant and I have endometriosis. I just didn't want to risk that. And the downfall to letting yourself go into labor naturally is you have to wait. You have to wait and know that your baby is not alive inside you, and just wait for the day for your body to start going into labor. You also have the risk of going sepsis, and, because the body will decompose pretty fast because your body is warm. Your body's almost like it's 98 degrees, like it's warm in there, and it's very quick to decompose. And your baby can also come out looking very not nice because they're decomposing. So if it took me a week, that's dangerous because of sepsis. It's dangerous for infection. My baby might not look visibly nice, and their skin will start peeling, lips will turn black. It's just not a pretty sight that you want to see. You don't want to see your baby decomposing.
No, absolutely not.
And I will say, before that ultrasound, I did notice that he was kicking a lot, and then all of a sudden was not kicking.
Yeah, you did say that. You did say
He
that.
was still kicking, but it was very, I remember he would always kick after dinner time, in the morning time, and then, late at night. So, after I ate breakfast, he would kick. At nighttime, around, 7 to 10, he would kick, and then, in the middle of the night, he would kick. And I noticed he was just not. I would eat dinner, and he wouldn't kick, and I was like, that's weird. But for some reason, I was like, oh, the spina bifida is making him, not be able to kick as much, because maybe his legs aren't working properly, but that was clearly not the case. And so I chose to be induced. We felt like it was, first of all, I was absolutely terrified because I've never given birth before, and I kept this whole pregnancy, I'm gonna cry again, I kept telling Josh, I feel like my body's done me wrong so much. I just want my labor to be good. I can't wait to experience labor. And everyone was always like, are you scared? And I'm like, no, I'm not scared. I'm absolutely so excited to give birth. I know my body's made for this. I'm excited to feel. Of course, that was ripped away from me also. I still gave birth, it was still a beautiful thing, but I felt like the excitement that you get, oh my God, I'm going to meet my baby, is kind of overcame with fear when it's like this. So we chose labor and delivery because we felt induced, because it was the most safe and controlled option. Also, I didn't have to sit there and wait for my body to go into labor. I knew that the faster he was out, the more alive he would look. I know it sounds horrible, but so yeah, we decided to do induction. Do you want to say anything? Or are you just letting me down?
No, I'm letting you. No, I'm you're good. I'm just
Okay.
listening. No, you're good.
So we decided to do labor and be induced. So first of all, I want to say something that was not fun. Is we had to wait, I think, 3 days?
About 3 days. It was we were in the hospital for just about 3 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, I got induced right away. I think my doctor called me a couple hours after the ultrasound, and I that same day I went in. So it was pretty quick. And the way that he was growing, it seemed like he literally passed within the 24 hours of me getting my ultrasound. He passed pretty close. I felt his kicks kind of diminish, but they were never gone. He was kicking. He just wasn't kicking at his normal times, and it was a lot less. So based off of his size, when they were doing the ultrasound, it seemed like he was either passed like literally that day or sometime within the past 24 hours. So they induced me that day also. And I went into the hospital and I was so nervous. And for some reason, the girl that was admitting me didn't read my chart.
Oh, yeah.
And I come in and she goes, "Congratulations, it's baby day." And I'm like, mm-hmm. And I almost lost my fucking mind.
Yeah, it's so when we were sitting there, she said it, and she was obviously like, I'm sure she does this all day, and she's like trying to just, be excited for people.
She didn't mean
and
that,
yeah, like she wasn't doing it in like any ill intent, obviously, because so basically she was like reading the chart when we first came in. She's like, "Oh my God, it's baby day, congrats, blah blah," and then like you could tell she started like reading into it a little more because her whole like demeanor kind of changed a little bit.
Yes, and I sighed after she said it. I was like,
oh, and
because I was trying not to cry. And she goes, "Oh, are you okay? Like, are you good?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm fine." And her demeanor changed. She started to get really sweet. She like whatever, and I feel so bad because I know she didn't mean to. Like, it's not very common that you see someone like on their chart getting induced, and it's for like a stillborn. But working at a hospital, you never know.
Yeah.
You would just.
I'm sure now, going forward, she's probably gonna proceed with caution. To be honest, but yeah.
But no, she was very sweet, and you could tell like she obviously did not mean that.
No,
at all.
Definitely not.
And you could tell she felt bad after, and I felt bad that she felt bad because if I would have done that to a person, I would have went home thinking about it. Like,
oh my God, what did I just do?
Yeah, I would have been like, oh my, that would have ruined my whole day. Yeah. And so yeah, I got induced. So I go up to my room. We like settle in. We get a private room. And thank God I am in Canada because all of this is,
covered,
bill free.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already so mentally drained and scared and whatever. I couldn't imagine. First of all, I want to say this, like, I could not imagine also having to come out with a bill. I could not.
Yeah.
The fact that you're already emotionally, mentally, physically drained to be hit with something financial would have been the absolute cherry on top.
Like, you got to think about all the women over in the States that do IVF,
right,
and pay for that,
right,
and
which
then,
we paid for IVF,
right? We paid for our IVF, but I'm saying on top of that,
right?
It's just that's.
And even if you have insurance, it's never 100%. And then every medication that you're taking in the hospital, you're like, well, how much is it going to be?
Right.
How much is my insurance? Like, to think that there's an extra step that you have to think about. I am feeling for all the women there. I am just so grateful to be Canadian in this moment.
Yes.
Well, I've always been thankful to be Canadian, but I couldn't imagine. And I really do feel for anyone who goes through any medical situation and then has to leave with a bill. Like, as if it's their fault. They're in this medical condition.
Yeah, for real.
I am so sorry. So anyways, I was in the hospital. I went in on Tuesday morning. And, basically what happened was, to induce me, they had to, put pills to dilate me. And it ended up,
boy.
Usually it takes about 3 doses for people to start having contractions. And they're about 6 hours apart, your doses.
Yeah.
And so the doctor was like, after like 3 doses, you should start feeling contractions. Well, after 3 doses, I absolutely did not. I was not dilated at all. After 5 doses, I absolutely was not. I was not dilated at all. 6, 7, 8, nothing. So I was there for for almost 48 hours.
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
So Tuesday passes. I was there early in Tuesday. Well, it was like 1 Tuesday because I got my ultrasound in the morning. Yeah, I think it was like 1 or 2. So I was there at 1 or 2. Then I'm there all Tuesday.
Yeah.
Then I'm there all Wednesday. I'm through 3 doctors or 4 doctors at this point.
Yeah, I think we were 3 because they
Three
were all on
doctors
like
in.
24 hours. Yeah.
We're 3 doctors in. And every single doctor that comes in is like, we're just going to keep trying because I've never seen this. My 2 nurses, one of the nurses was like, I've been here for 10 years and I have never seen someone have to take this many doses to induce. So a lot of the time I messaged my doctor. My doctor's like, oh, like, have they tried a Foley balloon? And they did not. They just felt like, with a Foley balloon, you need to get your cervix soft. It's a whole medical thing. So basically they couldn't do the Foley balloon because my cervix was so hard and closed because I was 23 weeks pregnant, which your body wants to hold on to the pregnancy. So they needed to soften my cervix before even doing anything. Well, we are now, I think it was officially my 10th dose.
Yeah.
10 doses and being in the hospital for almost, I think, 34 hours or something.
At that point, yeah. No, more than that.
More than that?
Yeah, because you were already over 48.
Thursday morning.
Yeah.
So I got in Tuesday. Thursday morning is when I finally started.
Yeah, about 48 hours.
It was like 11 p.m. on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So basically almost Thursday. I went to the bathroom and I started bleeding. And I had this feeling, they're like, oh, let us know when you feel like you have to poop. And I'm like, I've been feeling like I had to poop for the past like 3 hours. And so I went to the bathroom and I did have to poop. And I'm like, okay. But I'm like, these are not contractions. Like, this doesn't feel like a contraction. Well, they check me and I am dilated enough for them to break my water. So they go in, they break my water, and from there on,
that was crazy, by the way. Like seeing
let's
that.
Let's see the men's side.
Like seeing, yeah. So I want to just like share the opposite side of the experience because it was like I didn't realize how they did it. I had no knowledge of it, and they literally grab this little tool and it has a hook on it. It's like plastic though.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like metal or
no,
something.
It's just plastic.
It's like a plastic hook, and it was weird because like the doctor came in, they're like, all right, yeah, we can do it. She puts this thing up there and she just goes, and you can see all the liquid.
Oh yeah, I felt it.
And it was like,
it was a huge bunch of liquid.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my god, it was like warm, and like I just couldn't believe that's how easy it was for them to just be like, okay, see ya.
I know.
Insane. Anyway, continue. Sorry, I just had to add that.
So they broke my water and they're basically like, this should get things moving pretty quickly, and it did.
Yeah.
So I guess I was having back pain for about like 5 or 6 hours before they broke my water. And I had a feeling I was dilated a little bit because when I went to the bathroom and I wiped, there was a little bit of like pink spotting. So I was like, okay, I must be dilated because I'm spotting. And I was, and so they broke my water. And then from there, things moved pretty fast. So she broke my water. I went to the bathroom, like I went poop, I think. And then I come out and I'm like, I'm standing at the door talking to the nurse and to Josh. And all of a sudden I'm like, ugh. And the nurse is like, what was that? She was excited because we needed to get myself induced. She was like, okay, like, you're miserable. Let's get you induced. So she goes, what was that? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, it doesn't feel like a contraction though. It doesn't feel as painful as it should, as people say. So I go into the bed and I lay down, and then as we're talking, another one happens. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I think these are contractions. So we call my mom, we call his mom, they both come.
Oh, one thing I'll add to, sorry, just to sort of interrupt.
We need your. I've been talking this whole time.
The hospital was, I want to say the hospital here was absolutely incredible.
Oh, incredible.
All of the nurses, the doctors were great. Everybody was great. So when you're in the hospital, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but when you're in the hospital here, you can only have X amount of visitors during visitor hours. Like I think after 8 p.m. or something, right? It's done. Like no visitors allowed.
Yeah. And during delivery, you're only having 2 people.
Yeah, me and like
one other person.
Yeah, and like her mother, right? They treated this as more of like a palliative situation, right, where they allowed multiple people in there no matter what time of day it was. It was good. So they allowed us to have my mother, her mother, my father was there like throughout, not during the delivery, but like he was there throughout the day. Like it was really good because number one, obviously the day wasn't about me, but I had to be there the whole time as well. And there's nothing
for support too. It's still your son.
No, but I'm not going through what you went through, but what it was nice because my parents were able to bring, and like her mom was able to bring us food because I can't eat anything in the hospital. I'm not allowed to get food there. Like they don't give me hospital food. You get the free food. So they were like able to bring us food, which was super nice. But it was awesome because we were able, like, taking how bad the situation was, we were at least able to have our family there with us like the whole time, which was awesome, right?
And so, yeah, I started feeling contractions. I guess the nurse said, yeah, those are contractions. I did not think they were contractions, but I don't know. I've always had a high pain tolerance, I feel. And so, yeah, from there, I would say, like, how long from me getting contractions to labor do you think? So they gave me morphine. And
you were drugged.
I was very drugged up. I was sleeping in between contractions. Like I'm not kidding when I tell you I was full blown, like in a deep sleep between each contraction.
Yeah, it was weird.
I would have a contraction. I'd be like, have a contraction, which was great because it gave me the energy to do the next contraction. But I was such a blur for me that I don't know how long it was.
I feel honestly,
like active labor.
Honestly, me too. It was more like, so.
I think it was like 3 hours. No?
I think it was about 3 hours, but by the time like your labor, like when you started to like deliver, it was like already 3 something in the morning. It was like 3, right? Like 3 in the morning.
I don't know.
Something like that. I think
wrong person.
No, I think it was about 2:45, 3 o'clock because, I think things started to really ramp up for you toward like the actual delivery part.
Well, yeah.
And
so from when I first started having contractions to when I gave birth, how long do you think
I would say
was?
3 hours.
That's what that's what I thought too, because I remember it was around like 11 or 12 that I started calling your mom and my mom, and then he was born at like what time was he born at?
Something
3:15 I thought, or something
3:30 3:15 something like that.
We wrote it down. 3:14.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, about 3 hours. So I started getting, I was also on an anxiety medication because I was allowed to, because obviously he was going to be stillborn. So they weren't worried about, giving me medications that weren't safe for babies because he was going to be stillborn. And they treated me very well. They gave me stuff to relax me because obviously, any labor is hard, but when it's hard emotionally also, and I'm scared to see him, and I'm like, also in emotional distress, they wanted to just make sure I was comfortable. And so they did give me anxiety medication, and then they also gave me Gravol because I was pretty sick. I had a panic attack, and then I got sick from that, and then I ate a double cheeseburger because Karlee's always hungry no matter what. I ate a double cheeseburger, and I got sick of that too. So they gave me Gravol, anxiety meds. So think about it. Gravol is kind of like Zofran, I guess, if you're in America, I think. Zofran? Yeah, I think. So it makes you really drowsy. And the anxiety med I had was Ativan. That makes you very drowsy. And then morphine, which makes you very drowsy. So I was pretty calm and relaxed. Now, I had the comb for contractions, which apparently my nurse never saw someone do that, but I saw it all over TikTok. They're saying, like, when you give birth, to get a comb in your hand and squeeze the comb when you have a contraction, because it kind of like distracts you and it hits nerves there. And it worked. I squeezed the comb every time.
Yeah.
And it worked. I did the whole labor completely naturally, other than morphine, obviously. I did ask for an epidural because I was already there for like almost 48 hours at that point, and I was tired from just being in the hospital and being pumped with all these drugs that I was like, I can't also take all of this pain also.
That's what I was like, the next thing I was about to say, sorry, is like when it started to ramp up and you had asked for the epidural because you're like, I could tell you were asking because you were just exhausted.
I was just tired.
You were just like, I don't want to feel it, just fucking let's go.
The pain honestly wasn't it was bad, but it wasn't, I don't think, that bad.
Right. But when you had asked for the epidural, one of the nurses actually was like, so you're probably about 15 minutes away from like things really ramping
Yeah,
up
because
here.
they could feel the baby's head.
Yeah, because they could feel it, and then we're like, oh, they're just full of shit. Like, they're just trying to, like, whatever.
Not get the...
Yeah, not have to do it.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. They just were trying to convince her, I think, to, like, no, you're already this far.
Which I'm happy they did.
Yeah, because it wasn't 15 minutes, by the way. It took about... The best thing for you is that you were so drugged up, you probably didn't realize that it was that long.
I really thought it was, like, 15 minutes.
No, so it was about an hour after they had said that.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
So you wanted an epidural. They said, okay, wait 15 minutes, and then if you still want one, we'll give you one. Because the problem is if they gave her an epidural and she was about to deliver, the epidural probably wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, by the time
you were delivering. So they were like, okay, wait 15 minutes. 15 minutes goes by, 30 minutes goes by, an hour goes by, and she doesn't ask for it again. And then about that hour after is when you started to deliver.
So I was so drugged up that I actually don't remember, like, how... Did I say I needed to push? Like, I don't even know how the doctors knew. Or did I just start pushing?
You said, like, I feel like I should push. And they're like, okay, push. Because at first, that wasn't what was happening, right? They were just kind of like...
I didn't feel like I had to.
Yeah, they were just kind of there and, like, whatever. And
watching.
then out of nowhere, you're like, okay, I feel like I should push. Like, should I push? And they're like, yeah, push. If you want to push, push. And you did. That's what happened.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
And then what? They got the doctor?
Yeah, they said no. The doctor was already in the room.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is how did they go get the doctor? Why would they go get the doctor if I didn't say anything?
I think because when your contractions started to get
really
X
close.
amount of time apart is when she got the doctor.
So I didn't say anything.
No.
First.
No.
For some reason I thought I said something and then they got the doctor.
No, when the doctor came in and they were like looking and then you're like, I feel like I should push. And they're like, hey, push. And you did. And then then it was like fucking go time.
So,
yeah.
I will say contractions hurt. And I don't want anyone, if I see anybody in the comments invalidating my birth experience because he was 23 weeks and not a 40-week-old baby, you will be blocked and on my absolute hate list for the rest of my life. Thank you. Because I still dilated, I still gave birth, and I still had to push out a human being, and it fucking hurt. Okay? So.
Yeah. Agreed.
The contractions did feel the way that I always envisioned them feeling. I feel like I definitely had back labor. I didn't really feel contractions anywhere else other than in like my butt and in my back. I never got like uterus cramping. It was all in my back. But that's also with my period. I always feel everything in my back. It's very weird. I'm just like a back girl. I don't know. But the contractions, I will say, were very tolerable. It was very mental. I went in very mentally prepared. It's a mental battle. That's what it is. Like, if you tense up when you're having the contraction, it makes it 10 times worse. So what you have to do is literally force yourself to relax while your body's tensing. And it really does make the pain go from like a 9 to like a 5. If you just try and let yourself relax. It's hard because your whole body's tensing and it's what your body wants to do. But if you just like relax, it makes it a lot easier. Yeah. I think I took contractions like a champ.
I think you did too. I think the whole thing. And I will say, from the outside in, obviously, that obviously I've never been involved with a birth before. First time.
Better not.
No, I've not. And it was actually like a super peaceful, like, not for you, but like.
No, it was for me too.
I think like.
It was.
I mean, the pain wise, obviously not, but like.
No, but it was.
Yeah, like the whole.
We had the lights off.
Yeah, the whole vibe of the room and like the whole like.
Music on.
Yeah, like it was beautiful. Like, to be honest, like, I don't want to sound whatever, but
no,
like
it was
really.
Beautiful.
It was quite a like, I've heard other men say that before, like they'd be like, oh my god, it was like a beautiful experience. It's like emotional. It's, you know, it's almost like calming and like whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's so weird. I would have thought like screaming, crying, pushing, throwing up, fucking shitting on the table. I'm like, oh,
well,
that's not
what happens.
Right.
But it's still beautiful.
But it's, you know, never have, like, obviously someone who has never been in a delivery room, like, I will say it's very surprisingly a nice experience.
I think it also depends on how you make it. Like, I didn't freak out. I didn't panic. I let myself have contractions. We shut off the lights. Yeah. We put on slow worship music.
Yeah.
And
anything to to make you more comfortable is what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
And it did make it beautiful.
Yeah. I do want to add something. Sorry. Obviously, when she had talked about the heart defect and all that stuff, I don't want anybody to think that's like a genetic thing.
Oh no, yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We should talk about that after.
We'll talk about that because I don't want a lot of people say a lot of rude things, and I don't know if they're just doing it to be like malicious or whatever, but you know, we've seen the comments, we've seen some of the things that people say, and it's just like super, honestly, it's just super fucked up, to be quite honest. And it's just like totally uncalled for. So I don't want anybody to think like that's what it was. It wasn't a genetic thing. We will get into it if like,
we're almost on the story, so then we can talk about that.
Yeah. So anyway, continue. Sorry. It came into my brain. So
right. So yeah, how many pushes? Like 3, 4? I don't think it was long. I was only pushing for
4 or 5 probably, yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't push for very long. I didn't tear or anything. And yeah, I pushed and he was out, and we asked if they could take him and make him look, most like beautiful alive, wrap him up.
Yeah.
Take off all of the white stuff that is on him and stuff. And because we wanted to see him look like a baby and like a cute little wrapped up baby.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So after that, I had a problem delivering the placenta, which is very common with preterm labors or stillbirths or anything like that. And so she had to actually like reach in there and rip it off.
That was crazy.
And
that was crazy.
I would say that was the worst part of the entire labor, is when she actually had to go in there and grab my placenta out.
She was like up, like in there, like, and I saw, cause like there was the blanket that was covering, obviously, and then I just see her like this, like looking around, feeling in there, and I'm like here. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, that was crazy.
That was the worst part of the entire labor and delivery, is, other than the fact that my baby wasn't alive, just to clarify, what like painful wise was her grabbing my placenta and ripping it out. Well, grabbing it out. She didn't like rip it from me. She grabbed it out. But that was the worst part. And then after that, they took Luca and they did footprints and
I do want to talk about something. Sorry, real quick. At the hospital we were at in our city, there was a flyer essentially promoting a photographer for like a stillborn photographer. And we were like, oh, that's cool. Like that's something like, probably some people might not do, but others would do. And they told us that she's actually just like does it out of her own, like, kindness of her own heart. There's no charge for it, and she'll show up and she'll take pictures of your child, and that's it, right? I'm like, oh, that's cool. I called her the first day we were in on the Tuesday, saying, hey, are you available? Yeah, no problem. Just let me know. Basically, she's like, usually the nurses will let me know a couple hours before, just to kind of give me a heads up, and blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I was back and forth with this woman for 3 days, or 2.5 days essentially, keeping her on, almost like on call. Like, I'm like, I'm so sorry, nothing's happened yet. And then I was updating her, okay, water was just broke. Okay, this is what's happening. So she was like, she had to come from like 40 minutes away. And at 3 a.m, this woman was 40 minutes out, came in the middle of the night, and literally she took beautiful pictures of Luca, like beautiful pictures. And it was an amazing experience because it was like she wasn't even there.
She just let us do our thing.
And she just...
and enjoy our moments with our son, and just took photos, like, without even...
Yeah, and it was incredible. Like, it was incredible.
She was awesome.
I couldn't believe it. And... oh, I'm sorry. I just put the camera on you as you were coughing. My bad. But it was an amazing, like, selfless act. And I was like, I can't even believe she does that. And she had her own story where she lost her baby at full term, like 40 weeks. And that's why she did it. And it was a service I had no idea existed. And we are super, super grateful for her because it made everything like just, we have memories now of like what he looked like and seeing him, not just on our phone. Right. So, yeah.
I will probably do a podcast on my own talking about like certain fears that I had and my emotions behind it, because I think we're kind of making it seem like this was like an easy, beautiful experience. But if I went into every detail, this podcast would be like 4 or 5 hours long.
Yeah.
So I'll probably do another thing about just like the emotions behind it, because there's a lot to it. It's not just all happy. It's scared. You like are terrified. You have like these bitter feelings. It's a whole thing. But yeah, so we saw Luca, and he was absolutely beautiful, and he looked just like Joshua.
He had Karlee's nose and my non-existent lips and face.
He looked like Josh with my nose.
It was insane.
Like crazy. Joshua broke down immediately.
Oh my God. I was so like for someone that in one point of their life that never wanted children.
Right.
To like that was like a whoa. I've never felt emotion like that in my whole life. Like genuinely, like I've been through losing people, like doesn't matter. You name it, there was nothing like that. It was crazy. And to look down, like I thought, like you don't know what to expect, right? With a stillborn, like you didn't know what he would look like, what condition he would come out in. Like you don't know, right? And like to see he was like, he looked okay. Like it was crazy. Like he looked okay. Obviously he was not, but I'm just saying it was like insane to see like this. You could look at him and say, wow, this looks like me. Or, oh my God, he has your nose, or he has your this, or your that.
The moment I grabbed him, I was like, I just grew a mini Joshua.
Yep.
With my nose.
Yep.
We even looked at his toes. He had Josh's toes. He didn't have my toes. He had Josh's toes.
We know that because of Karlee's deformed pinky toe. So that's the only way we could tell. But it was just, I just, that whole experience, like, we're obviously, like you said, we're talking about the whole story without going into too much of the detail that Karlee will go into separately. So this is just from like kind of both of our perspectives, but it was a very, very, very long process. Felt like forever. I know people are going to think, oh, it's only a couple days. Yeah, but like in a hospital room where you're not leaving and you're sleeping on essentially.
And you know you're not coming out with good news.
No, like you're leaving with
no baby.
Like it's a terrible, terrible situation. And then to be there and like sleeping on uncomfortable ass beds and like having hospital food and like being just like super, it's a very depressing thing. Yes. But I will say, when it comes to like, again, I'll say it again, like the nursing staff, the doctors,
awesome,
just
incredible,
made the experience way better than.
I had the best nurses.
Like legitimately, like every single nurse we had was, and you hear a lot of times where like you'll get like a bad nurse and like it'll make your experience shit. They're definitely overworked, and I will say though our nurses were incredible. Like
incredible.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have been able to do without them. Like
for real.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like the whole thing. As for when you have a baby past 20 weeks, you have to legally do funeral arrangements. Luckily, we found a funeral home here that does stillborns for cremation for free, which was awesome because we saw what the bill would have been, and it would have been like $4,000.
Yeah, it was like $35
something plus tax, so like about $4,000. Which again, to put financial pain on something that's already so emotionally painful, would have sucked, but luckily, the funeral home was amazing also.
Oh my God, they made
us like posters and
like they made us like this
canvas, I guess.
Yeah, like a canvas. They gave us like little memorial cards and
all free of charge. Delivered it to our house.
Yeah, like brought it here.
Delivered his ashes.
Everything was done like completely free.
They washed like his blanket and his hat that he was wearing. We got donations from a school that was in like the woodworking
So
place.
the hospital worked with like a wood shop class, and they made little boxes, wooden boxes for like a keepsake box.
Yes, so we have all of Luca's stuff in there. We have his footprints, his handprints, his weight, all of that. So that was like the whole story, and I guess that kind of maybe should answer some of your guys' questions. On Patreon, I'll probably do like a Q&A
or something,
a birth Q&A or labor Q&A or something like that.
And then maybe whether it's like this next podcast or the one after, maybe you can even go into even more detail if you wanted about whatever, or in a vlog or something, like you're gonna talk about maybe more, because we
could how long have we been recording?
An hour and 5 minutes.
Wow, that's it?
Yeah, it's 12:42, so we do have to.
I know. Yeah. I was like, we could just make a part 2 right now.
I know.
And do like the other part of it.
We're going on a little movie date, so that we were recording before, and it was like,
this is more fun.
See? So you do like it.
I like talking about my son.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah. Well, hopefully with other topics you like it just as much, because I miss this a lot. And
we can maybe go to the movies and come back and do part 2.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Just change our shirts.
Yeah, change our shirts to a part 2. Yeah, but
yeah, we could talk about the gene part and the gene that I found out that I have and how it's not genetic and all of those stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot more to discuss, and obviously, like, we're giving you very surface level things to just kind of.
We could talk about this for legit hours.
Yeah, and it's something that, like, obviously, it's hard for any person who goes through something like this to talk about it, especially on like a public platform too, where it's like people are like demanding answers and like, what happened,
and we know that there's going to be comments that are not nice.
Yeah, and listen, we've seen them, we'll continue to see them, and that's fine. If you're trying to be malicious and hurtful on purpose, that's your own thing. You got to figure out internally, to be honest with you. But we're happy to share the experience, because maybe people who have been through something similar or are looking for answers, or, maybe they're about to go through something like this. And hopefully this gives you maybe some peace, or any advice that you guys might need about something like this too. Definitely leave a comment. Maybe we'll read those and like address some of those the best that we can, right? Just from going through the experience. So with that being said, I think we're good. We all done. Okay. You can close us out.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for all of your sweet messages. I've seen almost all of them. If I took the time to reply, I'd be there all day. But I do see your prayers. I see your messages. I see all the things you guys are sending me, little quotes, little memes. We really appreciate it. And you guys have been a huge support and help. And thank you guys for understanding that we haven't been posting as much. And subscribe. I don't know. Maybe hit the notifications so that next time an episode comes out, you won't miss it. And I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.